Welcome to my little fiction corner, a cozy space where imagination seeps through the walls and fiction waits in every corner. It's a gentle place, a quiet reminder that stories are still worth engaging with, worth immersing in. I'm Sarai, and I'm so glad you're here. I wanted to start this episode with a story about the inspiration behind this episode. So I recently moved into a new home with my family, and while I always try to make my room feel like a peaceful sanctuary, which 9 out of 10 times it pretty much is, but I knew that this time I needed something more, like a cozy space where I could relax, unwind, and where stories could just keep me company. So I created this little fiction corner. It's literally just a corner of my room tucked beside a window, but it brings all the feels. I'm actually looking at it right now as I record this. It's soft, it's safe, and most importantly, it's mine. This corner is the start of this podcast, but it's also the start of this episode because that corner got me thinking. What makes a story feel like home? Today I want to share 2 stories that fit that feeling for me. One is from a book and the other's from a film. And as I share these 2 stories, would love to leave you with a few thoughts to carry into your own fiction corner, wherever that might be. Our first story begins with a notebook that was intentionally left behind in a cafe. Inside this notebook were handwritten pages from a man who decided to share his life honestly for the first time. Now, this notebook wasn't intended for someone he knew, but it was intended to be read by strangers. And it shared the kind of things that people don't usually say out loud. This notebook then begins to travel from stranger to stranger, and with each new entry we meet someone else who adds their own story. These stories are unfiltered and private, sometimes funny, and sometimes heartbreaking. And slowly their lives begin to intertwine in quiet and unexpected ways. The book is called The Authenticity Project by Clare Pooley. When I first picked this book up, I thought it might be a light, quirky read, and in some ways it is, but I didn't expect it to feel so familiar. Not because of the setting or the plot, but because of the way it reminded me that everyone is carrying something unseen. What I loved most was that this wasn't a story about big, dramatic gestures. It was about small moments of courage, about people quietly deciding to be seen. And the more they shared, the more they found something they didn't even know they were missing, like community or connection, or maybe even a version of home they hadn't known that they needed. I take this podcast as an example. This is my small moment of courage. This is me quietly deciding to be seen. Okay, maybe not so quiet. But it is me stepping up. And what this book reminds me of is that we all carry invisible stories. And when we finally let someone in, even just a little, we give them permission to be real too. If you enjoy books about connection, kindness, and found family with a soft touch of British humor, you might really enjoy this book. I'll leave a link to the Authenticity Project in the show notes if you'd like to read it for yourself. I do encourage and highly recommend you to check it out from your local library or visit a secondhand bookstore. In light of the message from this book, I'd love to leave you with a question to reflect on. What parts of yourself feel the most at home, and where do you let them be seen? If you'd like to take a small step of courage and leave me a comment, I'd love to read it. Our next story is a story I've carried with me for many years. It begins with a young girl named Sarah who's sent to a boarding school while her father goes off to war. But then, unfortunate tragedy strikes and her whole world is shifted upside down. Suddenly, she is no longer a student, but now she's a servant living in an attic, alone and overlooked. And yet, she still imagines. She tells stories, she holds on to kindness, she believes in the little things, she believes in magic, even in the darkest moments. You may know what movie I'm talking about. The title of this movie is The Little Princess, and the version that I'm thinking about is the 1995 adaptation. Yes, there are other versions out there, and of course the classic book. But this one in particular always felt like a hidden gem to me. What stayed with me all these years is the way that Sarah holds on to her inner world. How storytelling becomes her way of staying soft in a world that's trying to harden her. It reminded me that sometimes the stories we carry are what carry us. The visuals in this film are soft and golden. There's lots of warm lighting, rich colors, and just enough magic to feel like a dream without losing all of the real touch and emotion. The pacing is gentle and unhurried. It gives lots of space for quiet moments to breathe, and that's what makes this film feel so special to me. If you've never seen it or haven't watched it in years, I truly hope you'll give it a try or a rewatch. I'll leave a link in the show notes to help you find where it's playing. I think this is one of those films that finds you when you need it most. Now, before we wrap up our time, here's a little tip to carry with you this week. Try creating your own comfort go-to. Something you can reach for on days when you're craving warmth, familiarity, or even just a little quiet. It could be anything, like a cozy shelf full of books that you like, a playlist of feel-good movies, a journal of quotes maybe that calm you, or even a digital folder with your favorite scenes or songs. Whatever form it takes, it's yours, something that reminds you of what feels like home. Now, you don't need to fill it all at once, just add to it slowly, story by story. And before you know it, you have a comfort go-to that is just for you. I hope today's stories brought you a little comfort, or maybe reminded you that even quiet fiction can feel like a friend. I'll probably be spending the rest of my day near my window, tucked in my own little fiction corner with something warm to drink. Maybe read a chapter or two. Whatever today looks like for you, I hope you find your version of that. A small space to breathe and a story that feels like home. Thanks for spending this time with me. From my little fiction corner to yours, I hope today something soft and familiar finds you. Goodbye for now.